Welcome back to another episode of the Top Attorneys of North America podcast. Today, we're joined by an exceptional team from the premier Maryland firm Chase, and Hammerschlag. Attorney Daniel Hammerschlag and his powerhouse paralegal Grace Nelson. Dan brings more than 30 years of experience to the practice, focusing on personal injury and medical malpractice litigation. Over the course of his career, he has earned a reputation for delivering prompt, thoughtful communication, conducting meticulous case assessments, and developing strategic, favorable plans for clients seeking justice. And sitting right beside him is Grace Nelson, who has been a vital part of the firm for over the past 6 years. Her dedication, organization, and behind-the-scenes expertise help drive the firm's success every single day. So without further ado, Dan and Grace, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
No, you're very welcome. For Dan, you've been practicing more than 30 years in personal injury and medical malpractice. What originally drew you to this area of law, and how did the experiences from law school help to shape your early career?
Like a lot of people, I got involved with it through a law clerk position while I was in law school. The attorney that I was clerking for did personal injury, and it got me involved in that kind of work. And I saw that I had a certain talent for it, so I stuck with it. Nothing really in law school prepares you for these kind of jobs. You're just learning general rules and case theories and how to read cases. It's more for appellate work almost. The day-to-day grind of law school, of being a lawyer, you have to learn on the job.
Yes, sir. And Grace, what led you into the paralegal profession, and how did you end up working with Dan? Was this a planned career path, or one of those life put me here type moments?
Life definitely put me here. It kind of found him. And good old Daniel's been stuck with me ever since.
Excellent. How would each of you describe your working relationship?
We're extremely close. It's just the two of us, so I have to rely on Grace, and I am someone who can be a little disorganized at times, and she keeps me together, because when you're a lawyer, you can't miss deadlines at all. You have to be on top of everything, and she makes sure that I am.
That was actually going to be one of my follow-up questions. Which one of you is more likely to misplace a file and then blame the desk for it? So obviously Grace has your back. We know the answer to that one. What's the secret, though, to maintaining a smooth attorney paralegal partnership, especially in complex cases?
I think, in my opinion, I don't know how other attorneys do it, but you have to have respect, and you have to understand that what the paralegal's doing is very hard work. It's often very thankless, and you you have to acknowledge all that they do for you. If they don't respect you, they're not going to work hard.
Yes. And Grace, you're often the first point of contact for nervous or overwhelmed clients. What do you see your role in setting the tone for the client experience?
I think we both play a big part in that, because sometimes I'll take on a case more so than he does, and then vice versa. He'll head up a case more than I do. I think it just is dependent on what the case needs. I'm a mom of two, and he's a dad of two, and he's been supporting his family for decades, and I'm young, I'm in my 30s. So it just depends on who you relate to and what the client might need. And no case is the same. So some cases I get super close to our clients, and other cases they talk to Dan more than they talk to me. So we just try to set the tone together and try to tag team it however fits best for the case.
Understood. And that segues nicely into my next question. Without naming names, can each of you share a case that sticks with you, one that taught you something important or left a lasting impression?
We've had a lot of big cases. We've had some $1 million cases. I think we would both agree, and I don't want to name names.
Mhm.
It was actually a dog bite case where there was actual ring camera video of the attack that affected both of us because it involved a mother protecting a child, and you couldn't watch it without feeling something.
I still haven't watched it. That one was tough. But then we also have other ones that we helped a lot. There was a minor child that we had that was affected greatly by some burns. And Dan was really close to the dad. He had known him for years. And we were able to help that family get some justice for their little girl. So that one was really cool too.
Very nice. Do you ever find yourselves interpreting the same case differently? And if so, how do you come to a unified approach?
I think where it's because Grace and I have very different backgrounds. I grew up in Montgomery County, Maryland, which is a very comfortable world. Grace grew up sort of in the streets, and she's got street smarts, so she's much more distrustful of people than I am. I'm way more trusting, and she'll get mad at me if I take cases where she sort of smells that people are lying or exaggerating or fabricating.
Which happens often. The car accidents, though, I feel like when we have a difference of opinion, it helps because we try to figure out what might have actually happened in an accident. We get in deep discussions all the time where it comes down to us, like even using our phones as cars to like dictate how we think the damages came out or what we think the liability decision would be. And that helps us determine ahead of time kind of how the case will go.
Daniel, you've been practicing for more than 30 years in personal injury and medical malpractice. Um, how has personal injury and medical malpractice litigation changed since you began practicing? What's more challenging today than, let's say, 30 years ago?
I don't know if I would say it's more challenging. So much of it depends on the courts and the mindset of the courts. And when I was first starting and when I was in trials all the time, the Baltimore City courts were extremely conservative and sort of anti personal injury cases. So whenever I went into the courts, I would get beaten pretty badly, and it was
Hmm.
hard on the confidence. But it changed over time, and that has made our job a little easier because if the court's more favorable to us, then the insurance companies will be more interested in settling. But back in the 90s, they didn't care. They just said, go for it. Good luck. The technology's had a huge impact, and especially post-COVID.
Hmm.
We before COVID, clients simply had to come in. We had to meet them in person. Now we do almost everything by DocuSign. They can call on the phone, and we can email them forms, and they can sign, and they don't have to come to our office. And the other thing is a lot of the court stuff now is done like Zooms that we're doing now. We used to have depositions. We had to be in a conference room. Everybody had to be there. I had to travel. Now I can be in my office or my home and do a lot of the work that I, again, had to drive to.
From the paralegal perspective, Grace, how has technology changed your workflow or the way you build and support cases?
Well, I wouldn't have been able to get on the Zoom without her.
So faxing is still very much a thing, but emailing is really great because you can leave a paper trail with conversations that you've had. And then I do a lot of requesting medical records, which a lot of the hospitals and such have portals for. So in that sense, it makes it easier. But like Dan said, COVID kind of messed up a lot. So even though the technology aspect is great, not all of like certain departments, like especially billing departments where they have people that work remotely as opposed to being in the office. So it takes a lot longer to get items as it did before. And it just, it has its ups and downs. So like it's great for the paper trail aspect and it makes it easier because I have everything here on my Mac. But in other instances, you don't have like that person-to-person interaction anymore. And it just kind of creates more speed bumps when you're trying to get something a little faster, or like there's been times where we've requested things and the request just falls through. So we've ended up, on the phone with people. And it just depends on what it is I'm trying to do. But overall, it makes it, better than I would imagine being a paralegal in the 90s.
Understood. Dan, let me ask you, do you think that that lack of person-to-person contact, do you think that helps or hinders?
It hinders someone like me because I base most of what I do on personal relationships, and the cases that I have go so much smoother when I actually have worked with someone from the insurance company before and they know me and I know them, and there's like a trust, and I'm really not meant for a faceless world.
How do you balance the emotional and legal aspects of representing clients who may be dealing with serious injuries or trauma?
It's a difficult thing. There is an element of pressure, especially when you're dealing with, let's say, a single mom and she's raising 4 or 5 kids and she's out of work and she's lost her car. You really, really have to be there for them. But we do the best we can in that regard. All my clients get my cell phone number so they can call me and text me at any time of day, because what they're going through is extremely, extremely stressful. And so we feel it. And the bigger injury cases, the cases where people aren't going to recover, that's hard on us because there's only so much we can do. The biggest problem with car accidents is that you're dealing with insurance that's finite. And in Baltimore City, especially, most of the policies are 30,000 or less. And for instance, Grace has got close with an individual who died in a car accident. She's very close with the family, but the most we could get for them, even though their child died, was $30,000.
Terrible. And I don't think that's unique to Maryland. I hear that a lot from attorneys across the nation, and they always implore their clients to get underinsured or uninsured motorist insurance added to their policies as well. And I know that you guys, there's a lot of competition out there with billboard attorneys. I see them on TV all the time. And a lot of personal injury attorneys have been telling me that they have clients coming in and expecting, a 6-figure settlement or a 7-figure settlement within, a week's time. What do you say to clients to manage expectations realistically, especially given that prior success doesn't always guarantee, future outcomes?
I mean, we've been doing this so long, we sort of know the value of a case almost immediately and where it's going to go. And again, in this city, policy limits are so low that most of the bigger accidents, we know immediately they're going to be policy limit cases. It's just too much risk on the insurance company to let it go to court. We rarely see policies larger than 100,000.
Let me ask as well, just to lighten things up a little bit, because you mentioned some pretty serious cases: dog bites, burn victims, car accidents, deaths. On the lighter side, what's the funniest thing a client has ever said to you during a consultation? Grace or Dan?
Back when there was a Yellow Pages, and I got talked into a Yellow advertisement, And what came with that was a little bit of TV advertising. And the calls that we would get were so bad that I just would never do it again.
Mm.
But one person called and asked if they could do a workers' compensation claim for poison ivy. And I was just, I think I just threw my phone in the air.
Have either of you had a moment where you looked at each other and said, is this really happening right now?
Every day.
Oh,
Yeah, we're in the middle of Baltimore City, and it's a very interesting area, and we see everything under the sun. And um, the hardest thing for us, as we alluded to earlier, is sometimes figuring out if people are telling the truth or not,
Mm.
because they're very, very good at looking us in the eye and saying something, and it seems believable, but it turns out that it's not. And we're going against insurance companies that have unlimited resources, and the technology has helped them immensely, much more than it's helped us. And they know much more about our clients than we do in certain instances, because they'll press a few buttons and they'll know our client's entire claim history, they'll know their criminal history, and those things we're sort of in the dark in.
not just them though, sometimes the other parties. Like we have clients that are adamant about something that happened in an accident, and you get hit by somebody and they say, oh, sorry at the scene, and then they go back to their insurance company later and say, oh, I didn't do that. And sometimes we look at each other like, is this really going on? In the other instance where it's like, is the insurance company really believing what their insured is saying right now? How is this plausible? And we have to go to bat for our client and try to get them the best outcome, you know, knowing that their story is the one that they've stuck to and that it's believable, and is, when we take our phones out and create cars, that makes the most sense, and try to get the insurance company to agree.
Yeah. The importance of dash cams.
Mhm.
Uh, Let me ask you, Dan, some advice for people or individuals aspiring to be an attorney, or for a young lawyer interested in personal injury or malpractice law today. What qualities or habits should they cultivate to be effective and ethical advocates?
In my opinion, and maybe some other attorneys would disagree, especially where you are in New York City, which is a much more aggressive area, I would say not to be so combative. I would say, just like I said, I have to have respect for Grace as a paralegal. You have to learn to have respect for the people who work for the insurance companies, the adjusters, and the attorneys. If you're not respectful towards them, you will burn bridges, both with claims and with the attorneys you go against, and it will make your job so much more difficult.
Grace, what advice would you give aspiring paralegals who want to work in high stakes litigation?
In my opinion, and maybe some other attorneys would disagree, especially where you are in New York City, which is a much more aggressive area, I would say not to be so combative. I would say, just like I said, I have to have respect for Grace as a paralegal. You have to learn to have respect for the people who work for the insurance companies, the adjusters, and the attorneys. If you're not respectful towards them, you will burn bridges, both with claims and with the attorneys you go against, and it will make your job so much more difficult.
What advice would you give aspiring paralegals who want to work in high stakes litigation?
Experience is always great, but getting the certificates and validations that you need behind you give you a step up, of course, with any profession, but I think it's more so just being relatable and it's easier for us because it's just us, so we're a lot smaller, and working for like the big, factory type of law firms, it can get easy to get lost in the tussle of everything because you're just doing one file after another and working. But I think that the client relationships are very important. It makes them want to come back. And just like he was explaining about, the respect for who you work with on his level, it's the same thing on my level with the clients. And, it's not always peaches and cream. Sometimes you get difficult clients, and sometimes you get clients you have lifetime relationships with. But no matter what, the money train keeps calling. So if you continue those relationships, then it will grow into something more later.
Yeah, let me elaborate on that a little bit, because we are a small firm and we do not advertise. We're not on billboards. We're not on TV. We're not in the newspaper if the newspaper still exists. We have a website, but we completely rely on word of mouth. So we have to do right by people, because if we don't do right by people, they won't tell their friends, they won't tell their neighbors, they won't tell their relatives, and they themselves will not come back. And if they don't, we're done.
Yes, and that's why you guys tout yourself as a client-centered practice, making yourselves accessible. When somebody calls, they're obviously dealing with you and not some intern or case manager.
Yeah, Dan has clients that still come back from the 90s. Some of them can be a little cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs, but they are the loyalty is like unmatched, where no matter what, they will. I mean, and there's been clients where he hasn't seen them in 10 years and they still remember to come back to him. So
that's very nice. That's a nice compliment. Just to go back a moment, and this is for both of you guys, what do you wish you knew when you started out that you know now?
That's a good question. I think I wish I knew how to value cases. And I wish I knew just how much leverage we had. I sort of lived in, because I was just a young guy going against the Allstates, the State Farms of the world, and I felt they were so much bigger than me. I was a little fearful of going to court, especially because the courts weren't favorable then. And, when I would file the suits and I would get interrogatories, it would stress me out, and depositions would stress me out. But ultimately, I learned, especially through other friends who are attorneys, that, excuse my French because my last name's Hammerschlag, but we as attorneys, we really do have the hammer in these situations. And we can have a positive influence on how the cases go, for sure.
And Grace?
I don't know that there's too much that I wish I would have known then, because my experience and like all the things I've gone through over the last 6 years is what got me here now. So I don't know that any knowledge would have given me a one up, but I think more so it would have just been knowing how COVID was going to affect the after. I mean, no one was going to know that, right? But COVID had such a big impact on how claims were. I mean, at one point, one of the insurance companies was putting every claim through the fraud department just to make sure that they were going through with a fine-tooth comb on everything coming through their claims office. So I think I just wish I would have known how to handle it afterwards with the change between before and after COVID.
If I can speak for Grace almost from what I've seen. When Grace first started, she was a little rough around the edges, but she was amazing with certain tasks that innately. And I was sort of just blown away how she just automatically knew how to do stuff. The one thing was, because of her background and where she was from, she was prone to being combative, and clients don't like that. When you're hiring somebody, you know, you're working for them, and that's what they expect. They expect you're working for me. And Grace would fight back. And the one thing I've tried to work with her, and she's gotten so much better, is that these people are our lifeblood, and you just sort of have to go easy on them. Even if you think you're right, you kind of just you stay quiet, and almost like if you're in a marriage, the wife is always right. You just you let your you just you can't fight with your clients because they'll be gone. There's so many other lawyers, and they will drop you at the drop of a hat if they feel the vibe is not the way they like it.
Yes, but to go off of that, in Baltimore City is there is no place like being here. The people that you encounter, just the way the city functions and on a day-to-day basis, and the things that people deal with in their daily lives here aren't often dealt with anywhere else. I mean, you can go 45 minutes or an hour south to DC, and people live completely different lives than what happens here. So the type of people, the environment, the way that respect is earned and given amongst people there's just a different way to approach it. And like you said, I was rough around the edges. I was coming from the outside in. So I was coming from that into having to bite your tongue, or, certain things that you might handle outside, you wouldn't be handling it the same way in the office. And it just took some learning to figure out like how to maneuver through people with that. And yeah.
Well, it's just very difficult. And, as a paralegal, she's fielding a lot of the phone calls. And because of, again, where we work, there's a lot of desperation in the city. And especially this time of year, you imagine being, again, a single mom, and you're out of work and you don't have your car to get to work, but you still have to pay your bills, and you still have to come up with money to get your kids their new video games or whatever presents you're getting for the holidays. It gets to be a panic time, and that panic goes on us, and we have to deal with it, and we have to deal with it professionally.
Yes. I can imagine it's stressful all around, like you said, for the clients, for you guys. But you said put in earlier in the broadcast that, you both have families outside of the office. What do you do to decompress? How do you balance work and family, and how do you, check yourself at the door and make sure that you don't take it home with you?
Well, it's probably easier for me when I go home, because I'm going home to a nice wooded neighborhood that's serene. I can walk my dog. I'm an empty nester now, so it's a little bit more difficult. When my kids were coming up, they both played lacrosse. My daughter was a very major lacrosse player. So I could just lose myself in that world, and I loved it. So now it's a little more challenging when I come home, because I don't have a whole other avenue to lose myself in. But it's probably a little easier for me than for Grace, who's, got a 1-year-old child who needs attention 24/7.
Yeah, I have my 2 kids, but they keep me pretty grounded. My 8-year-old is I call her my broke best friend. And I have my 10-month-old son. So between the 2 of them, they keep me pretty busy at home anyway. I don't really have much brain power to think about work when I'm home taking care of them, and gymnastics and piano and all of the things that my daughter is involved in. I'm actually a classroom parent this year, so I'm very involved in school. So I just I exert a lot of my energy into them and try to like build it up, build their childhood up, make it as less stressful and fun as I can for them.
That's very nice. As you both look ahead, what goals or changes do you hope to see in your practice for 2026?
I don't know about
When
2026.
you've done something for 32 years or however long I've done it, you don't, there's not too much change.
It all blends.
Yeah, we're just rolling along, and you just hope it the biggest stress that I have as a sole practitioner, basically, we get I have partners, but they're in their 80s, so they're not really bringing in that much business anymore. It's just finding new clients to keep going. It's not the kind of business that just automatically refreshes. You have to find new clients, and like you alluded to earlier, it's a very, very competitive environment. In Baltimore, there's 2 attorneys on every block, and just getting those clients in is what makes it stressful and what gives me sleepless nights. Because if I have a day where I get 4 new clients, then I know I'm going to sleep for a week. But if I go 3 weeks and nobody calls, then I start getting an ulcer.
Mm.
I don't know about, I wouldn't say maybe goal for 2026. I think my 5-year goal for us would be obviously the new clients and to keep it rolling. So the partners have been in the same building in the same suite for 30 years. So it'd be great if we could find another office.
40 years.
Oh yeah, close to 40 now. And suites, when you move out or whatever, they always get renovated and upgraded, but we've literally been here so long that some of the office still looks like the 80s. So I'm thinking just 5 years, maybe get a different office, maybe a new location, have a different set of clientele. Not necessarily leaving Baltimore City, but maybe a little more accessible area, public transportation, that kind of deal.
That means, Dan, you have to work harder.
Absolutely. What else am I going to do?
What keeps you passionate and motivated after 32 years? Does it ever wane, or are you just all in? Let's go. Let's keep going.
I think for sure that there are moments where it's a grind, and you have a little bit of burnout. I've been more lucky than most of my other fellow attorneys in that working for myself, I can pick and choose when I come to work, when I leave work. I'm not here 100 hours a week. It's on a case-to-case basis, and if we have cases that we really, really love, we can sink our teeth into it and really get into it. There are a lot of other cases that are very, very similar, and it's more of a grind. And because we've been doing it for so long, we can do those kind of cases with our eyes closed. Not to put ourselves down, we are very important, but it's the bigger cases that that we have to fight, but we feel an attachment to. We had a case where we had Grace and I, and she even brought her daughter. We actually had to go out to the scene to prove this, to go and get the angles of everything, to prove everything right, because we really liked the woman we were fighting for, but it was a liability dispute, and but she had a really serious injury. So the whole thing was made us happy that we could do right by her.
Yes, sir. And for our listeners who may be seeking an experienced legal team like yourself in Maryland, what's the best phone number or the best way to contact you guys?
So office number is 410-433-4100.
Google search is usually best. If you look up Chase and Hammerschlag, the Baltimore Magazine article pops up, and the address and location of our firm.
Yeah, Grace was awarded one of the women who moved Baltimore. So
Perfect. I want to thank you both for joining us today. It was a very interesting look inside the incredible work that you do at Chase and Hammerschlag. Your commitment, your client, very importantly, your teamwork and the passion that you bring to every case truly embodies what this podcast is all about. I want to thank you very, very much for joining us.
Thank you. Really appreciate it.
Thank you for listening to the Top Attorneys podcast. The Top Attorneys celebrates the achievements of leading attorneys across the nation. To be featured, send a message or visit www.topattorneys.us. Be sure to like and follow across all of our channels.